In this part, you get the Orochimaru fight. Roll the intro.
And today thinking myself
Seems you and Orochimaru are just gunning for my weak spots. Bastard actually had his lackey cut open his hand and I froze. Tsunade grumbled. Still got that fear, huh? Too bad. Take it as an omen for whatever Orochimaru has offered you, Jiraiya commented. How do you know he offered me anything? Tsunade demanded with an affronted expression. Jiraiya couldn't possibly know what was going through her mind now. She knew Orochimaru was a bastard. But when he offered to bring back Dawn and Nawaki, even she had to stumble a little. Hime, whatever it is serious enough for you to give it a thought like this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sticking around, right? Jiraiya guessed. Though Tsunade gave no appearance of it, just returned to nursing her sake. He knew very well. It's none of my business. It might be true, Jiraiya went on, but I just wanted to make one thing clear. If you betray Konoha, I'll kill you myself. He pinned her with a dark look, intent clear in his eyes, and Tsunade knew he wasn't joking. Tsunade thought back to the time when Naruto called her trash. She knew exactly where he was coming from. Obviously, they were Kakashi's words, taken from his late comrade Obito. Those who abandoned the rules were trash, but those who abandoned their comrades were worse than trash. He wasn't wrong at all. After a minute of thinking, she finalized her decision. Jiraiya went back to drinking, not noticing that Tsunade had discreetly spilled a drug into his drink. Naruto's prediction was only partially false. It took him a total of 4 days to form a Rasengan with one hand within an instant. Not only that, but he had mastered it so that he could do it with both hands. In addition to that, he had managed to learn and master the temporary paralysis technique with the help of Jiraiya and his shadow clones. Shadow clones were awesome. Kanashibari was a jutsu that physically immobilized targets, as though they have been tied down by invisible ropes. However, the jutsu was only as powerful as its user. Naruto, with the help of Jiraiya and Kurama, was able to estimate that he was powerful enough to restrain most Jonin with it, but he would have trouble restraining someone of Jiraiya's power. Jiraiya seems to have some strange chakra that was powerful enough to counter his own, which was saying something since his chakra was incredibly dense and filled with a large amount of vitality, as it's the norm for most Uzumaki. Anyways, the usual way to use it is physical contact, but Jiraiya proved himself why he was an undisputed spy master, for he taught him how to use that jutsu with just eye contact. It was incredibly difficult to mold and project the chakra through just eye contact, but Naruto's chakra control was refined enough that he was able to master it to the degree, though, that took him the whole week to do it. Not that he was complaining. Freezing his enemies with literally nothing more than a glance was badass. Right now, he was wolfing down a well-deserved meal of ramen from a stand he had found. While it wasn't as good as Ichiraku's, it was ramen all the same. As he was in the process of polishing off his 7th bowl, he sensed a chakra signature coming and immediately knew who it was. Fancy seeing you here, Shizune. How's it going? Shizune greeted him with a smile. I'm fine, Naruto-kun. How about you? Naruto put down the empty bowl with a sigh of satisfaction. I'm eating a well-deserved +3 meal after training. You gotta admit, hard work is bitter, but the results of it are just sweet, if not more. Shizune smiled and nodded. They are. Naruto-kun, I was hoping to talk to you about the bit you made with Tsunade-sama, she requested. Naruto made a contemplative face and stood up. He put some money on the counter and turned to her. Let's take a walk. They roamed in the streets, with Naruto keeping a constant lookout for eavesdroppers. So, what did you want to talk about? Please drop your bet with Tsunade-sama, she implored. If not for her sake, at least for your own life. You see, the necklace that she offered you, it's cursed. An amused smile lit up on his lips. Cursed, you say? And pray tell how exactly is it cursed? Pray, I think they meant please, but it's fine. Shizune informed him in a solemn voice. Whoever receives the necklace dies the very next day. Naruto shook his head. That sounded like a load of crap. Shizune cried out earnestly. But it's true! Her own brother and her lover both died after they received the necklace. Please give up the bet. Naruto sighed and turned to her, stopping their little walk. First of all, I can't do that. Giving up has never been my way of doing things. Second, I've already accomplished what I told your master. But seeing you're in quite a busy place right now, the Rasengan will have to wait until later. Shizune wanted to protest more, but seeing the look on Naruto's face, she heaved a sigh. Very well, if you're so set on it, Tsunade-sama can't be found right now, so it will be tomorrow. What will you do now? Naruto made a thinking face. I don't know. Then his face lit up with a smile as he turned to her. How about we go for some ice cream? My treat, since I'm feeling really good today. Shizune giggled. Are you treating me to a date? Naruto smirked as she hooked her arm around his. It's not a date, for your own sake. Otherwise, I would have to call you a cradle robber. Shizune made a affronted face as they set off to get ice cream. After a good night's rest, Naruto was up and fully rested. He cleaned up and dressed up as usual, without his vest or headband, and was about to head to the hot springs for one last time, when Shizune burst into his room, panting and looking very frantic. Where's Jiraiya-sama? She asked, sounding extremely hurried. Naruto was used to Jiraiya's random disappearance, so he just shrugged. Beats me. What's the matter though? Orochimaru offered Tsunade-sama something in return for Tsunade-sama's unique self-healing jutsu. I fear she's gone to accept the offer. Naruto, we must hurry and stop her, Shizune explained in a rush as she moved to the window. Unique self-healing jutsu. Is that what the seal on her forehead is all about? Naruto wondered as he followed Shizune. His danger sense rang just as he opened the window, and he pulled her back just in time for the kunai to whiz past the spot where she was a second ago. Shizune yelped as she was pulled back, a hand on her upper back preventing her from falling over on her butt. She looked back to see Naruto's face in an exasperated expression. However, the confusion that followed soon turned into a slight panic as Naruto himself leaned out of the window. Look where you're aiming at, you senile perverted old man. She leaned out of the window herself to see the man she was looking for. Naruto jumped out of the window himself, face frowned in confusion. What the hell managed to get jump on you? Oh, who? My bad. Jiraiya was panting heavily, and his skin was covered with sweat as he gripped onto the window frame like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Damn, Tsunade drugged my drink. The effects will wear off soon, but not soon enough for the fight. Naruto, can I count on you to help me out with this? Jiraiya grunted out, looking at the blonde. Naruto nodded as he passed a jug of water to the man. Jiraiya gratefully nodded at him and chugged down the whole thing within a minute. He gave a sigh of relief, muttering, That's better. However, Naruto still hadn't dropped his guard. He was sensing a highly suppressed chakra signature a few rooftops away, and it seemed to be slightly familiar, with the feelings of snakes coating it. Without any warning, he threw 3 shuriken in the air, which looped midair to converge on the position of the spy. All 3 of them spotted a slight movement as the spy fled away quickly. Shizune asked, Who was that? Naruto muttered as he walked to his backpack. Whoever it was, I have a feeling we'll be seeing him soon enough. He took out his headband, taking off the sash and wrapping the headband back on his head. He did not have time to take off his jacket and switch it with the vest. Shizune and Jiraiya were ready to go, even if the latter hadn't fully recovered. He gave a nod of approval for shooting away the spy. Shooing. Let's go, she said as she jumped out of the window. Naruto and Jiraiya easily followed suit. They spotted a faint dust cloud in the distance and were able to hear the low, thunderous noises of something getting smashed. They all arrived at an open field, with Shizune sighing in relief and Jiraiya grinning. Whatever Orochimaru had offered Tsunade, she had refused. Running a little further, they arrived at the fight. They weren't surprised to see Orochimaru and Tsunade fighting, the former's hand looking as if nothing happened to them, but Naruto's eyes narrowed as he spotted Kabuto. He called out to the traitor, "Kabuto, you were the one who was spying on us, weren't you?" "Indeed, Naruto-kun. You must be an accomplished sensor if you managed to sense me, for I was highly suppressing my chakra," Kabuto admitted with a chuckle. "Enough of this," Tsunade spat, flying forward to smash a fist into Kabuto's fist. Kabuto smirked and with his chakra scalpel in hand, sliced a large cut again across his palm, right in front of Tsunade. The woman automatically froze, eyes wide and body trembling minutely. "Tsunade?" Naruto questioned, and then his eyes went wide when Kabuto landed a vicious hit to her jaw, causing her to topple backward. Jiraiya grunted, "Dang it, it's hemophobia. Shizune, you can handle Kabuto. Naruto, you protect Tsunade. I'll take on Orochimaru," he ordered them, striding forward to meet the snake face. Kabuto sneered, "Pathetic. What kind of medic nin is afraid of blood?" He was up to punch her in the face once more when Shizune intercepted him. "Stay away from her!" While she engaged Kabuto in a fight, Naruto flash stepped towards Tsunade and crouched down to the still shell-shocked Tsunade. "Come on, this really looks pathetic. You're the foremost medic in the world, and just who allowed you to show him your weaknesses?" He scolded her, and when he received no response, he rose up and took out two of his special kunai, ready to defend her in case Kabuto slips past Shizune. On the other end of the field, Jiraiya was having a lot of trouble. His body had still not fully recovered, and Orochimaru was bearing down on him without any sign of slowing down. He sighed in relief when Orochimaru backed up from swinging the Kusanagi on him, but almost groaned at what he did next. Orochimaru cut his thumb, and in the next moment, a large brown snake appeared. Orochimaru grinned. "Ready to die, Jiraiya?" Jiraiya grit his teeth. His chakra control was pretty bad enough, and he couldn't risk calling the smaller toads here. He would have to fight this another way, it seemed. Naruto noticed his godfather in trouble and was about to create a shadow clone to go and help him when the things got worse. Turns out Kabuto had managed to catch Shizune's ankles with his chakra scalpels, catching her off guard with the headhunter technique, and now that he was done with her, he was heading for Tsunade, who still hadn't snapped out of her shock. Naruto mentally cursed and threw the kunai before his feet, flying through hand seals ending on the tiger, a crimson barrier enveloping him and Tsunade. It was a moderate level barrier that protected the user from low to mid level physical attacks, so Naruto had no problem holding it. Kabuto's hand lit with a scalpel, sliced at the barrier. He flinched and jumped back, glaring at Naruto. "What is this?" Naruto smirked. "Wouldn't you like to know?" In the corner of his eyes, he watched as Jiraiya buried the snake in an earth-style swamp, and then collapsed onto one knee. He mentally cursed. Jiraiya still had yet to recover from the drug. If this keeps going, Jiraiya will be killed. Kabuto seemed to notice this as well, and wasted no time in taunting him. His pleasant voice slightly jeering and grated on his nerves. "It looks like Jiraiya-sama isn't faring quite well. It won't be long before Orochimaru-sama manages to kill him. What will you do then, Naruto-kun? Save your master? Or save the woman who doesn't even care what you think of her?" Naruto narrowed his eyes. "You don't know what you're talking about." "To answer your question," a smirk graced his lips, "I don't see why I can't do both." Still holding the tiger sign, a shadow clone popped up beside him. He disengaged his right hand from the seal, forming a joint tiger seal with the left hand of the clone, thereby transforming the control of the barrier to the clone. He watched amusingly as Kabuto's face went from triumphant to annoyed. Having figured out his plan, still the traitor was gracious enough to praise him. "Your abilities in Funjutsu are truly astounding, Naruto-kun. But how long do you think your clone can hold this barrier for you?" Naruto smirked as he picked up his kunai. "Long enough." That was all he said before vanishing in a blue flash. Truth was, he had roughly 20 seconds before the clone dispelled itself, leaving Tsunade vulnerable to attacks. Not that his clone was weak, but if he had to dispose of Kabuto, he needed the element of surprise, along with a bait. Kabuto cursed and immediately turned to where his master was fighting Jiraiya once again, with the sword of Kusanagi. "Orochimaru-sama, watch out!" Orochimaru was having a blast fighting his old teammate. Jiraiya was slowly recovering, but he knew that at some point in this fight, Orochimaru will pull out the boss summon, and he would be helpless against Manda if he couldn't summon Gamabunta. The drug still wasn't completely out of his system, and he hated that dang sword. Orochimaru was in mid-swing to cut off Jiraiya's head when he heard Kabuto's warning. At first, he didn't know what Kabuto was warning him about. He was fighting Jiraiya. Kabuto had disposed of Shizune, leaving Tsunade, and oh crap. His epiphany came too late, as Naruto flashed right in front of him, blocking Jiraiya and his swing with a wind-laced kunai. He had no time to block as Naruto completed his spin, crashing his left foot into Orochimaru's left jaw, sending the snake Sanin flying back. He flipped in the air to land on his feet, but Naruto was already moving, or rather, his hands were. Naruto spoke nothing as he swiftly cut off the wind chakra, sliced a shallow cut on a surprised Jiraiya's thumb, and wiped the blood on his palm. 5 rapid hand signs, and he and Jiraiya were standing on the head of the Toad Boss. Naruto had summoned Gamabunta with Jiraiya's blood. Before Jiraiya could say anything of his godson, Naruto had stepped away. Jiraiya looked over to where Naruto had gone with wide eyes. Orochimaru was snarling in rage. Naruto had robbed him of too many valuable opportunities. His eye widened as he watched what happened next. Kabuto smirked as he gazed at the scowling shadow clone protecting Tsunade. He was not the one to stand idly while someone turned the tables against his master. He had created a shadow clone of himself to finish Shizune off. He was surprised though, when he saw the Toad Boss suddenly appear, but then again, Naruto was the apprentice of the Toad Sage. He looked back to see his shadow clone almost upon Shizune, the chakra scalpel heading for her open throat. Fully expecting for her to get killed, he was shocked when Naruto suddenly appeared in front of her, catching the shadow clone by the wrist and dispelling it with a well-placed hit. At the same time, he heard the pop sound of a shadow clone dispelling behind him. Looking back, the clone was gone, and so was the barrier protecting Tsunade. Kabuto seized his chance and activated his scalpel, prepared to cut right at her throat. Just as the hand was about to reach its destination, another hand grabbed his by the wrist, stopping it in his attack. Kabuto was stunned when Naruto suddenly appeared before him, stopping his attack. It had happened too fast for him to comprehend. He had attacked the moment Naruto had and attacked his clone. There was no way he was that fast to stop his attack so accurately. How did he even counter the instant that he appeared? It made no sense. Naruto flashed right to Tsunade's mark, his danger sense slowing down his perception to show the scalpel heading towards his side, since the previous target was not blocked by him, but he had no intention of letting that scalpel touch him. His left hand caught the wrist behind, stopping the advance. He saw shock fly across Kabuto's face, but he had no intention of letting his enemy regain his thought process. With a little bit of force, he cleanly snapped Kabuto's wrist. The sound almost sounded like music to his ears. Kabuto couldn't hold back the scream when Naruto broke the bone cleanly, his wrist bending forwards at an angle it really shouldn't have. It was a surprise the bone didn't break out of the skin. He was given no chance to numb the pain with his healing ability, for suddenly a swirling noise caught his attention. By breaking Kabuto's wrist, Naruto ensured he wouldn't be able to block his next attack because of the sudden high influx of pain. A Rasengan formed in his right hand in an instant, spinning at high speeds, slightly bigger than his hand, and with a gleeful roar, he drove the spiraling sphere of chakra right into Kabuto's stomach. Rasengan! Naruto watched with a smirk as Kabuto flew back from the powerful attack, blood flying from his mouth. He flew back so far and fast that he smashed through a rock, breaking it into pieces and skidding backwards until it was stopped painfully by a second one. He fell forward on his stomach, yelping and coughing. The pain nearly overpowered him. Doing an internal diagnosis, his eyes widened in extreme shock. He had broken more than a few bones, along with his torn and near liquefied internal organs and muscles. The eyes widened further when he discovered that he couldn't heal as fast as usual. Just how strong was that jutsu? Naruto turned to face Tsunade, who had seemed to finally snap out of her shock. She was still looking at him with fearful eyes, as if she was still looking at fresh blood. What are you? Naruto held up a hand. Wait a second. He stepped to Shizune, who was still unconscious, picked her up and flashed back. Tsunade choked upon seeing her unconscious apprentice. Naruto assured, "Don't worry, she's just unconscious. I was able to stop Kabuto from killing her." Tsunade hastily crawled over to Shizune, checking her pulse. It was a little weak, but thankfully, it was still there. Kabuto managed to catch her ankle with his chakra scalpels. I only know that not what happened before. Naruto's voice made her look at him, tears falling from her eyes. She looked back at Shizune, her hands glowing green. A tremendous weight seemed to leave her shoulders. Shizune did not require any immediate attention. She shakily stood up and faced Naruto, who was smirking softly with his hands crossed. You saw what I did, right? I win. Tsunade's expression was of surprise and relief, which turned into a shaky smile. She tightly hugged Naruto, ignoring the surprised grunt from the boy. After a long time, she sobbed like a little girl. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. She didn't know what she would do without Shizune. Naruto was surprised, but upon hearing her cry, he wrapped his arms around her. It was a surprise seeing her cry. Not at Shizune's state, but in relief. It's okay, he whispered, tenderly rubbing her back. If not for the situation, he would have had a nosebleed upon feeling those mounds against his chest. He figured that everyone needed an emotional outlet like this sometimes. Ironically, this was the second time he had a girl hugging him while crying, because he saved someone who was close to her. On the other side of the field, Orochimaru was cursing the brat for all his worth. Naruto had proven himself way too good to be left alive. If he was able to dispose of Kabuto in a single hit. The brat you've taken on is quite good, huh, Jiraiya? He was currently dodging attempts to either get squashed or be sliced by the Toad boss. Jiraiya sneered at Orochimaru. Looks like your apprentice needs only one hit to be taken out of the field, Teme. Orochimaru viewed his options. He could not let Kabuto be killed at any cost. The guy was too valuable with his medical knowledge, and he was the only one Orochimaru trusted with his secrets the most. But he could also not let Naruto live, for he was too good for his liking, and would no doubt give him trouble in the future. If the gods got a hold of him, he needed to be taken care of right now as well. Looks like I don't have a choice, he thought as he bit his thumb, preparing to summon the snake boss Manda. In a flourish, the snake boss appeared as sour as ever. Orochimaru, you dare call to me? You better have my 100 sacrifices ready. Orochimaru chuckled. Of course, Manda. I just thought you would like some toad meat today. Manda glared at Gamabunta. Disgusting toad. Gamabunta chuckled in mirth. I'm sure my wife would love a snakeskin wallet. With that, the two summons clashed in battle. With Jiraiya's summon taken care of, Orochimaru immediately jumped off Manda, running for Tsunade and Naruto. Jiraiya cursed and leaped after him, hoping he could stop him in time. Naruto, watch out! Naruto, who was still rubbing Tsunade's back, snapped to attention at Jiraiya's warning. A second later, his danger sense rang loudly, alerting him of Orochimaru's approach. He was about to flash to a marker, but did not expect for Tsunade to disentangle from him, placing herself before him to shield the boy with her own body. And Orochimaru's sword ran right through her chest. Both Naruto and Orochimaru's eyes widened in shock, and the latter retracted his sword. It wasn't my intention to hurt you, Tsunade. Just move aside. My aim is at the boy. Naruto narrowed his eyes, his anger at the old woman's stupidity evaporating. It seemed that Orochimaru held two grudges against him now. The first was foiling his plans of Konoha, the second was almost killing Kabuto. His eyes then widened at Tsunade's next words. You won't touch him, she snarled, wincing from the pain in her chest. Why do you defend him? Orochimaru asked curiously. Because it's my responsibility from here on out, as the goddamn Hokage of Konoha, she declared. A second later, she shot forward and punched the snake Sonic, sending him flying. She took deep breath and formed the tiger seal. Ninpo Sozo Saisei. I butchered that. To Naruto and Orochimaru's wonder, the diamond on her forehead morphed and extended, forming tattoos around her face. Her wounds closed up and healed out at an astounding rate, and she looked fully revitalized when she opened her eyes. Orochimaru was always salivating as he witnessed the effects of the jutsu he had come for in action, while Naruto was gaping at the medical miracle Tsunade had pulled off. What followed next was a battle of epic proportions. He witnessed firsthand the power of the three of the most powerful shinobi to come out of Konoha. No wonder they were called legendary, he mused as he sat back and watched the show. Kabuto still hadn't managed to get up, so no worries there. Shizune regained consciousness somewhere when Tsunade was reintroducing Orochimaru to her fists. So that was all good. Unfortunately, she didn't have enough chakra to heal her ankle on her own. The battle came to an end when Tsunade drove the Toad's boss Tonto straight through the snake boss's mouth, pinning him to the ground. Orochimaru finally decided that he wasn't going to win this battle anytime, so he decided to flee. He looked over to where Kabuto was and winced. His right hand had barely managed to sit up and was only just managing to remain on his position. He body flickered to Kabuto, ready to assist him to flee. Jiraiya and Tsunade appeared before him, their summons disappearing as well, stands battle ready. He glared at them. He had taken way too many hits from Tsunade, and Jiraiya Baka had managed to give him a hard time as well. Be stubborn if you wish, Tsunade. I have other ways to remain alive. He then disappeared with Kabuto, gone as if he wasn't there. I guess we won't be seeing him for a while, Tsunade muttered, breathing deeply and walking towards Naruto. She was surprised and happy to note that Shizune was not conscious. Jiraiya and Naruto, on the other hand, stared at Tsunade. In the fleeting moment that her seal had restored, they had managed to catch a glimpse of what she really looked like. She looked so old and fragile, much more so than Jiraiya. Was that the price of her technique? She healed Shizune's ankles, allowing her to walk, albeit weakly due to light chakra exhaustion. Jiraiya grinned and slapped Naruto on the back, throwing him a bit forward. Dang, rat, I don't give you enough credit. You took out Kabuto out in just one hit. I haven't seen anyone move that fast since your father. Surprisingly, Tsunade also joined the conversation with high spirit. So that was the Haraishin, was it? Naruto smirked. Wow, I'm surprised it took you so long to figure out, considering you yourself have a mark on you. Naruto pointed the mark out to her on the side of her wrist, the place that no one usually sees with their own eyes. Tsunade suddenly looked scared and turned to Naruto, a fist shaking. And just when were you planning to tell me that? Naruto kept smirking. It slipped my mind. Don't call me that, Bachan. Don't call me that, brat. Naruto laughed cheerfully as he easily avoided the swat of her head, but Tsunade smiled fondly as she gazed at his face. He really is like them. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, getting up and stretching after a good night's sleep. Jiraiya was already awake, sitting by his bed, smirking at him. Rise and shine, sleeping beauty, he teased. Naruto just raised an eyebrow in deadpan, not seeing the humor at all. He put the covers aside and got up, heading to the bathroom. When are we leaving, Erasenin? Today. Shizune is downstairs checking out. Tsunade is taking care of some last minute things. You freshen up though, we'll most likely leave in an hour, Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded and took his time to complete his morning duties. 20 minutes later, he came out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist and another rubbing his hair dry. He sighed in relief. The hot shower was great in there. Jiraiya was just packing up his and Naruto's belongings when the door opened to reveal Tsunade and Shizune. Naruto raised a brow when Shizune suddenly went red in the face and faced away from him. He then smirked, but slowly put on his clothes. He instantly asked her, Shizune Nisan, are you alright? You look a little red. Jiraiya giggled perversely, but stopped as soon as Tsunade glared at his direction. Naruto mentally smirked. Wiped for sure. Tsunade turned to Shizune and whispered something in her ear, which caused the girl to utter a small meep and scuttle out of the room. A confused Tauntaun clutched tightly in her arms. Naruto asked her curiously as he put on his t-shirt. What did you whisper in her ear? Tsunade waved her hand dismissively. Just some lady talk, nothing you should be concerned about. Naruto shrugged and unsealed his jonin vest and put it on, surprising Tsunade. You're a jonin? Naruto smirked. Let me guess, you thought I was just a mere genin, right? Tsunade only nodded as she watched Naruto tie up his jaw-length bangs and put it in his headband. She barely held her gasp. Naruto looked like a literal clone of his father. She snapped herself out of the shock and slowly walked towards him, surprising him. Then she lightly brushed his cheek while looking into his eyes. She whispered, You really do look like your father. Naruto smiled as he gently removed her hands. I would be worried if I didn't. I am his son after all. Tsunade smiled and nodded. Taking off her necklace, she pulled it over Naruto's head, smiling slightly. The necklace, as promised. Naruto cradled the necklace, inspecting the crystal that hung. It gave off a strange feeling, a strong sense of contentment and soothing. Who does this belong to anyway? Tsunade picked up her suitcase. My grandfather, the Shodai Hokage. Naruto, to his credit, only raised an eyebrow in slight surprise. No wonder it felt so soothing. Senju Hashirama Moketan was capable of calming down tail beasts, and Naruto strongly suspected that the bloodline limit had a much higher effect to something other than just earth and water. Naruto slung on his bag and moved to the window. Let's go then. He then promptly jumped out of it. Tsunade slightly scowled. He seems to have the same hate for doors like you, Jiraiya. Jiraiya grinned. Why use doors when you have windows? Tsunade gave a wary glance to her teammate as they walked downstairs. I'm gonna regret this, aren't I? Jiraiya pondered on this and replied, most likely yes, but deep down you will know that it will be totally worth it. They met Shizune and Naruto downstairs, who were making light talk. Naruto turned to Tsunade with a grin. You better be prepared, for you have a lot of work to do when we go back to Konoha. I'll take whatever you dish out, brat, Tsunade assured him with a smirk. Suddenly, she moved forward and gave him a soft peck on his forehead. Moving back, she saw the bewildered look on his face, accompanied by a bright blush. Naruto looked away from the group when he couldn't will it away. Besides, who's gonna teach you how to be a proper Hokage if not me? She challenged. Naruto smiled at her high spirits. Looks like the will of fire still burns within her. Out loud, he just waved his hand. Yeah. They all set off in high spirits, back home. The reward for bitter hard work really was sweet. And that's where I'm gonna end it, guys. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next part. Roll the outro.
On it, a bitch who was on the move, but you on a goddamn late. Got that one in my bed and she just wanna sleep. Fucking up all of the sheets. She only wake up to eat. Do this shit every week. Like, why you do that? Crying, you wanna be great, but sleeping until the next day. Why you do that? Don't got that much in the bank. We go out, she order the steak. Why you do that?